Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Media Show. And fantastic day here in Hawaii. Of course, I've got Rob Greenlee, my co-host, on board with us this morning. Rob, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Todd. It's great to be here again on the new media show, which is doing well, and I think we're having a good time doing it.
Yeah, we've had some great guests here over a couple of weeks, and of course this morning we have the legend, the man, Mr. Tim Street. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Wow, that was very kind of you. You're such a great intro host. I'm doing well.
I think being the hour, I think I couldn't quite muster up the Johnny Carson introduction, but anyway, good morning and welcome to the show. I know your time is short this morning with you, and for those watching that don't know you, why don't you go ahead and give them the short 411 on you?
I'm a former TV producer turned new media guy, and I do podcasting, I do web videos, and work in the technology space for the iPad, the iPhone, Android, Roku, Xbox.
And if some of you remember, French Made TV was probably one of your I think, is at least in my opinion, was one of your funner projects.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun to do. I'm working on an ebook about French Made TV, and we may see a few more of them. But hopefully, I can do something else that gets a little bit more traction than the French Maids.
You know, as I was kind of cruising some of the stuff that you have online, I was cruising your personal website over at onetimstreet.com. Tim. Why do I want to say time? Yeah, it's early. Onetimstreet.com.
Yeah, you're up early.
And of course, you guys can find Tim at on Twitter as well. And let's see if I can actually bring that up at
Twitter's the better place to follow me. I'm more active there. I'm a part-time blogger, but a full-time micro blogger on Twitter.
So I don't want to take the glory away from Rob here, but let's kind of get into the meat of things. You know, you've seen this space, the whole media space here over the past 8 years, really diverge, change, move. You know, it's just been quite the evolution. What's your thoughts on where we came from the beginning? When, of course, people have been doing stuff on the internet forever, but really this evolution of new media really kicked off in 2004, 2005. From then to now, where do you think the future lies for new media? And if you want to look at some of the past stuff too, I'd love to hear your perspective.
Sure. I mean, looking back at things, I thought we'd be where we are right now. I thought this would be like 08, 09, just in terms of how everybody's finally paying attention, and there are, major networks are putting major shows on the internet. Places like Hulu and Netflix are doing original content. Amazon's doing original content. It always takes longer than you think it would take, and so that's been the biggest surprise to me. I mean, I remember watching Steve Jobs at the keynote announcement of the video iPod, and back in like 2005, and he talked about Tiki Bar TV, this great podcast, and showed a little clip from it in the keynote, and I thought, that's it. We're taking off. This is going to be the new way that everybody's going to be creating content and getting it out there on these new devices, and it just takes a long time. I think we have a window of opportunity here as independent content creators, because the studios and networks are going to have, if they want to stay in business, they're going to have to figure out a way to either buy us all up or shut us all down. It has to happen. There's just no two ways about it. I don't see a coexistence happening to where they're able to make the same kind of money that they've been making. It will be death by 1,000, by 1,000,000 cuts. And so, as an independent content creator, I think you have a limited amount of time to really build a brand for yourself and get an audience that you can monetize into the future. So the clock is ticking, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but you look at what's happening with data caps, you look at packet priority and what's going on there, and it seems like we're definitely seeing net neutrality issues come to real life, and they could shut us down, or at least make it extremely expensive for us to do it, as opposed to what we're doing today. I mean, we're using Skype and creating a show, and we all have our own laptops or desktops to connect here, but the investment to do this show is nothing compared to what it used to be. I started out working at Walt Disney World in the park, and worked in theme park operations, loading people onto rides. And occasionally I would get pulled from loading people onto rides to work press events. And at these press events, we'd do fiber drops around the park, and we'd have simulcast radio shows going on. We'd have TV shows going on. And it cost millions of dollars to do all that. For each station was tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, in just rented equipment and personnel to make those shows happen. And today, we're here doing the show for virtually nothing, just taking advantage of the tools that we have in place. Although looks like you might have a little more gear in your studio there than I do this morning.
Well, it's and the thing is, it's amazing, when you invest in something, and I've made this investment in the studio, well, 3-4 years ago, and I look at the cost now of what I could have done this studio if I was starting fresh today, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I could have saved myself 20 grand. So it's gotten it's gotten extremely cheaper even in the last 3 or 4 years. But Rob, you've known Tim a long time, and I know you've got some thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about video and what the future is. I mean, I have these conflicting thoughts about the proliferation of video seems to be just really, really exploding right now, and it does kind of make me wonder. Is there a point of saturation that we're going to reach with all of this medium, and then we're going to see kind of consolidation happen? And then kind of secondarily, I wanted to throw out there too, Tim, what you think about what's happening in the video podcasting side of the thing. Is there really any future with that? So anyway, I don't want to throw too many questions.
Sure. Well, with video podcasting, I think there's a great future in terms of marketing, in terms of building a brand. I think that right now you should think about video podcasting as a great way to give away free samples. If you're going to open up an ice cream shop, you would never give away free ice cream all day, every day, and expect that somebody would come along and buy your ice cream shop. You'd just be laughed out of business, and people would enjoy the ice cream along the way. But since 2005, there's been a lot of video creators that have been creating video projects, and they come and go because there's no sustainable business model there, or they just pay for it out of their own pocket forever. There are very few scenarios where there's a sustainable business model. Now, where there is a sustainable business model has been on YouTube in the video blogging space. And so those video bloggers haven't really embraced video podcasting because there's not a solid, sustainable revenue model there, with the exception of sponsorships. And you got to hire somebody to sell those sponsorships. So that has its pluses and its minuses. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, like Leo Laporte, but for the most part, those video bloggers, they do something that's topical. So they're not really building a library that they're able to monetize into the future. Most of their money is coming from the pre-roll ads and overlays that are served on their videos. which are short-lived because they're usually topical. There are some exceptions to the rule, like Epic Mealtime would be like the next step up, where they've created a show with this lavish, crazy, almost, frat boy food cooking to it. And that seems to be doing really well with Revision 3 and with their help. But I think if you look at that video blogger model and you think back to the early days of television, early days of TV, they took radio programs and had people standing in front of microphones doing radio shows. And that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're taking TV shows and things that look like TV shows and we're putting them on these interactive devices. And so the formats for interactive shows are just starting to develop. And we're seeing a little bit of it on YouTube with these video bloggers. Whether it's through annotations, whether it's through, the comments that people can leave below the video, there is an interaction that's happening there that doesn't happen on television and with television shows. So I think what we're going to see in terms of your point, Rob, about consolidation is already happening, where a lot of these video bloggers, they become really popular, they get scooped up by a multi-channel network. There's several out there, Maker, Full Screen, Full Frame, Revision 3 is one as well, My Damn Channel. And so they're signing these different video bloggers, like My Damn Channel has built a show with Grace called Daily Grace. She's got over 1 million subscribers now. And those multi-channel networks are now getting investments from the major studios. So we're starting to see that consolidation happen. I think Maker Studio got an investment from Warner Brothers. And then Brian Robbins, he's a guy that I used to work with at Nickelodeon on a show called All That. You may remember him from a TV show called Head of the Class. He was the cool kid with the leather jacket. Well, he's last week he became the cool kid in web video, where he built a multi-channel network on YouTube and sold it. I think he sold it to Warner Brothers. It was Warner Brothers for $33 million. So we're definitely seeing things start to take off right now.
Tim, do you think with the announcement earlier this week with YouTube saying, so long as you have 1,000 subscribers to your YouTube channel, you now can do live on their YouTube Live platform? This is a big change. Up to this point, they were only really, of course, you have to have account in good standing and a couple other things, but this is the first time that they have opened the floodgates to essentially any channel on YouTube that has more than 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. YouTube provides a great service. They provide terrible customer service. It's really hard to, if you're just starting out, it's hard to get a hold of somebody at YouTube. So there are some places you can go. If you Google the YouTube handbook, if you Google YouTube partners, you'll find different information there. But I think, like anything, YouTube is smart in that they roll it out to a limited test audience where they know they're dealing with professionals. They work out the bugs, then they roll it out to a bigger group, and then eventually they make it available to everybody. So I think at some point in time, we'll see it available to everybody. But, 1,000 subscribers, if you have emotionally compelling content or information that people aren't getting anyplace else, I think you can get to 1,000 subscribers pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it was one of my things. I never really focused on it, because the distribution method for this show is pretty long format, and YouTube is generally short for show format. And I said, man, so, I had to kind of wake up here this past week and, put the word out, go over and subscribe. So, I'm sure we'll hit that within a couple of days. But it got me motivated is what it did. So
That's good. A lot of people don't ask for what they want. And I think the popular YouTubers are really, really good at asking for what they want. They're like, be sure to subscribe to my show. Make a comment in the comments below. like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. And my Twitter handle is one Tim Street, so make sure you follow me there. But they definitely know how to ask for what they want. And I think a lot of times as adults, we lose that ability to ask because we're taught to be nice, we're taught to be polite. And, a lot of people that get into podcasting, they're doing it because they want to break out of their quiet life, and they want to, build an audience. And a lot of times they're meek about it. They don't want to offend anybody. They don't want to do the wrong thing. And it's hard to build an audience if you're going to be quiet.
Rob, go ahead.
The thing that's really fascinating for me about what's going on with YouTube is this real aggressive stance that they have of just scooping up all the video in the world, and they want to be the kind of center of the world for all things video online, and it's such an ambition that's contrary to conventional wisdom. I mean, I can just imagine as they look into the future, their platform and their hosting and their all this stuff is probably getting very expensive. But also, I know as they get bigger, it's probably there's kind of like it's not as expensive because they have the infrastructure and they can do peering and they can do direct to the cable operators, and it's not so much it's going over the internet per se. And I think that's the only saving grace. But it's a really fascinating model that a lot of companies, I mean, like a Microsoft or an Apple or even Facebook for that matter, has not been willing to venture down that path at such an extreme and aggressive position. So Tim, what do you think about, do you think that there's ever going to be any kind of a competitor to what YouTube is doing?
I think the only way that there would be a competitor to YouTube would be if a new generation comes along and they look at YouTube as an old thing that their parents did, that their older brother or sister did, and they don't want anything to do with it. I mean, we've seen that happen in social media already with Friendster, with MySpace. It's starting to happen with Facebook. I mean, all the kids now, it's about Instagram, it's about Snapchat. Those are the things where kids are spending their time. So that's the only way I could see it changing. That's not going to happen in a year or 2 years. It would be a generational thing.
Do you see any companies or any websites right now that could be an incumbent in that way, that maybe is at the very early stages of their growth and development, that could move in that direction? And what do you think that could look like, do you think?
Well, I'm not going to tell you guys that because that'll blow all my investments. No, I actually haven't seen anything where I go, oh wow, that's, I look at stuff that's come along. I look at like Vine on Twitter, and you get 6 seconds to make a video. And there's other people out there, Vidly, different ones that have done this, and I think it's cool. I think it's interesting, but I don't know that we're necessarily at the blipverp stage yet, referring to max headroom. But it could happen. I have a feeling we're gonna see some announcements here, some announcements at WWDC in June. That may be video related. Just my spider senses are telling me. I don't have any insider information, but it just seems like the timing is right for Apple to pull the trigger on something TV video related.
I think.
Yeah, and also what's going to happen to Hulu is a very big question too. I know there was some rumors this past week that DirecTV might be wanting to buy Hulu. I don't necessarily think that's a good scenario.
Yeah, Hulu is interesting because it's kind of like it's like feuding families coming together to fight their major opponent was why it was born in the first place. I mean, it was called the YouTube killer, and it hasn't killed YouTube yet. And so I kind of feel like, whenever you have big companies that do the same thing and you try to get them to work on a big project together, it's really, really hard. And you got to give them credit. They've built a great platform. But in terms of moving forward, it's got to be so incredibly hard to get everybody on board and to move it forward as a business with all of them, all these big studios and networks still involved. So I have to see it being sold soon to somebody. It's a very valuable tool, and if somebody grabbed Hulu, who's going to show content on it? How's it going to play out? And so DirecTV does make a lot of sense because they still have those relationships, and it would be a great move for them to be in this space as well, them or Dish even. But it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, this year seems to be the first year in television that there's been a major shift from advertising dollars going away from broadcast and going to cable in big numbers at the upfronts. So we're definitely starting to see a trend where it's moving to the digital side, and I don't think that trend is going to stop. I think we're going to see some major carnage. And with have you guys talked about Aereo at all? The little antenna you put on your iPhone or iPad so that you can watch broadcast television. Fox.
Yeah, we actually haven't talked that much about it because I think that's just that's like the canary in the coal mine kind of scenario where it's just not. It's a sign of change, but I don't believe it's the change, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think they're getting. You got some smart guys that put Aereo together, and if their court holdings keep upheld the way they have been, it will transform broadcast. Not cable, but it's going to.
The fact that the head of Fox is saying that he's going to take Fox off the air and only make it available on cable, that's a big deal. Whether it's a hollow threat or not, I don't know, but it does look like, you look at shows like American Idol getting beat by Duck Dynasty. There's some major changes going on in the ratings world right now. And so it probably makes sense to be on cable only and not worry about broadcast. But then that opens up the, things are going to change. It's just like radio hasn't gone away, but you don't have your favorite radio drama anymore. The formats change. And so I think television as we know it, the formats will change. We'll see less and less dramas on television just because they're too expensive to produce. And eventually those dramas will start showing up on the internet. House of Cards is a perfect example.
This past couple of months, I've had a couple of interesting calls from basically media buyers, and it's folks I've never talked to before. They sought me out, and we've had the conversation basically goes like this: Hey, we're doing some investigation on this space. I've been told to write a point paper about what's going on in the new media, digital podcasting space, on-demand type thing, and the two questions that have struck out the most to me that I keep getting asked is, how big is this space? How much money is it going to take to buy advertising in this space to, have the same penetration that TV does? And I kind of laugh when they ask me that because that's really a loaded question. But I've, because I had been asked it twice, I gave him as close of an educated guess that I could on the actual dollar amount. And, I'm like, he says, And I said, too small a number, or is there, what do you feel? He says, plenty of room to grow. So I'm not going to give you my number that I gave him, but Tim, what do you think is the number if they wanted, if a media company or a big advertiser, let's say Coke or someone like that, wanted to come in and buy all of the inventory at Revision 3, Twit, our network, what's over at Libsyn, what's all the comedy networks, all the little independent shops that have started their own little video networks. What do you think that number is on an annual basis?
Well, I don't think that there's an effective way to do that by, because they'd have to make so many little deals
Right.
across the board. So I think that's a hindrance to this. But I think a better question is, what are the different verticals where you can move a niche, where you can move the needle and pinpoint it? Because when you look at television, when you look at radio, those are
Hmm.
broadcast.
Right.
We're in the narrowcast business. And if you take a look at like Lou Mongello, he's the podcaster that does WDW Radio.
Yep.
It's a show
Yeah.
all about Walt Disney World for people who love Walt Disney World. And Lou is able to sell a bunch of tickets to a Disney cruise. Lou is able to sell a bunch of tickets to a specific hotel for a specific event. So the power of having that focused, targeted type of podcast is way more valuable, because you can spend less money and reach only the people you want to be reaching. You know, let's say you have a timeshare in Orlando near Walt Disney World. Lou's podcast is a great podcast for you to be getting, your advertising on, as opposed to, putting it out in magazines
Right.
for people that, live in Orlando, or, why are they going to want a timeshare in Orlando? But I think that type of, thinking in this space, where you can be more strategic, you can be more targeted, allows you to spend much less and get such a higher return on your advertising and sponsorships investments.
But the digital guy, and not the digital guys are used to buying targeted. The TV broadcast digital buyers, they're willing to write some incredible checks. And so when I threw my number out, and he's like, "Wow, there's some room there for it's one, it wasn't as much as he thought it was going to be." And so I was thinking, well, maybe I've undershot this. But I really thought if the guy was able to say, "Here's the check," that I would be able to execute for a company across just about every space, and probably have a few bucks left, take my cut on the commission.
Sure. Yeah,
and
definitely.
still have enough left over at the end of the year to make to make everybody happy. But it's an interesting time, and I think at some point, God, I thought we would, like you said, I thought we'd be here by now. That they're going to come with those not 6-figure checks, 7 and 8-figure checks, and they're going to write very and high 7s and low 8s.
Well, it's the transparency is coming, and it's going to be extremely easy for people to look at their dashboards and see what's moving the needle. So if you're able to start putting together case studies on your particular podcast and show how you've moved the needle for somebody, and you might, if you currently don't have a sponsor for your podcast, you might want to think about who's somebody that you could go to. Maybe it's a charity, maybe it's just a local business that you like, and just go to them and say, "Hey, look, I don't want to charge you anything, but I want to do a test with you. I want to see how many widgets of yours we can sell on my podcast. I want to see how we can move the needle." And you start doing that, and then you have a record to where you can go, "Hey, look, we worked with this travel company, and we got 3,000 people to buy tickets, plane tickets, hotel tickets, and Walt Disney World tickets to visit Walt Disney World." That's impactful. That's powerful. That's a lot of money when you think about plane, airfare, hotel, rental car, and Walt Disney World. That's a lot of money if you're selling 3,000 of those. So, start looking at what's around you and see if there's somebody that you can help out. Just consider it like an internship. You're already doing your podcast for free. Why not make it valuable to somebody else and see how you can move the needle for them?
Tim, I know you need to go here in a few minutes. I don't want to delay you from getting out the door. But Rob, you got any final questions for Tim before he has to blast?
Well, yeah, this whole advertising thing, it feels like that we're on the path to get to where we need to be. I mean, it's like this whole issue of podcasts are like cats, right? That haven't been entirely corralled yet, but there's clumpings that are starting to happen, right? Todd's got his clump, and Chris Hardwick has his, and the Earwolf folks have theirs, and there's clumpings going on, but we're not really clumped together in any kind of like co-op way for a big advertiser or big buyer of advertising to come in and really be able to look across the whole space and make ad buys. It
Well, I
feels
think
like
there are a few places where that does exist, but it's not, everybody's not all rounded up. You look at
correct.
Revision
Yeah,
3.
so we're
Revision
almost
3 is
there,
definitely
but
one spot. You
yeah,
look at PodTrack. PodTrack is another
yeah,
place where people are able to go do a buy and get that buy across a lot of different podcasts that are out there. Um, uh, Podcast One, I
They're new.
believe, is another one that rounded up some of the top recognizable names like Adam Carolla, um,
yeah,
and you can do a buy there. So that consolidation is starting to happen,
Yeah.
and I
yeah,
think we're going to see it more in verticals where you look at travel shows like Amateur Traveler, great show. Good size audience for what he's talking about, but you pair him with a bunch of other traveler shows. Now all of a sudden you've got a travel network where you can buy, and like a Travelocity could come in and buy.
Tim, do we need to have like a podcast, like an upfront type of situation for this space too, that brings together
I
the
do.
buyers and the
What I would really like to see is, I would like to see some more stuff happen. We kind of saw a little bit of it last year at the New Media Expo, NMX, Blog World, and
yeah,
I think we're going to see more of it this next year, where we had a speed dating where there were different companies set up around the room and different content creators could go around to those. Extremely valuable on both sides of the table. I thought that was just great that Rick and Dave over at New Media Expo put that together. It was awesome. And I think that if we're able to see more of that type of stuff, also if we can see some organizations that are out there like the International Academy of Web Television maybe morph more into the International Academy of New Media to include not just video but include audio creators as well. I think that would really help podcasting. I love podcasting. I love the people. I love the technology of it. I don't think the word podcasting services what we do very well. I think to the consumer, it's a clunky term. Even though I like it personally, it's hard for me to admit it. But I feel it's bad for us as an industry, whereas we should just be saying we do an audio show
Right.
on the internet,
yeah.
because it's a show. We do a type of show, and podcasting is how it's distributed.
Right.
You wouldn't say I'm an RSSer, but that's basically
Yeah,
what they're hearing when you
yeah,
say I'm a podcaster. It's the same thing as saying I'm an RSSer.
Right.
It means nothing to them.
That's true. And I
but it
think
has felt like
that
it served a purpose up to this point to call it something different other than TV or radio, though, because it is something that's needed its own identity. But it does feel like I agree with you, Tim, that it does feel like that maybe that time is starting to pass.
Well, right now we're on Skype.
Yeah,
There's a video component to what we're doing. I don't know where are we showing up anywhere live right now on a website.
Yeah, we're on live stream right now. We're on the website.
So we're on live stream. So that's not a podcast.
Right.
no,
But there's an audio version, I'm sure, of this somewhere.
And when this
yeah,
actually goes, and it's actually being streamed as well, the audio version is being streamed. So,
Yeah.
and
So
when
this is a show. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not an audio show. It's not just a video show.
Yeah.
It's a show.
and when it gets
yeah,
distributed, it goes on Roku, Boxy, Samsung Smart TV, Google TV. It gets on really every device. So there, and that's on demand. That's not technically podcasting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
So, I think it's going to meld all together, and we're going to either watch shows or listen to shows.
right. And I think that's good for the consumer. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, I was just saying, I mean, if you think about kind of where YouTube lives in this space, they've really kind of co-opted a lot of the kind of video podcasts, and a lot of those content providers have moved to YouTube. And I keep thinking about Hulu, where it's like Hulu is has a lot of web video that's part of their platform, already. But they've tended to be like a portal for the big TV networks, right? That have wanted to offer the big network TVs. But I've always felt that Hulu, the sweet spot for Hulu would be more professional web video stuff, not broadcast
it is
stuff.
there. I mean, you look at an early podcaster, Hayden Black, with the show Goodnight
Yep.
Burbank.
Yep.
It's on Hulu.
Yep.
So it does happen, but it's just not marketed as a web show
Right.
or a podcast. It's a show.
A show.
It's a comedy.
But before Hulu can become that, right? In a much bigger way, it feels like that the ownership of it has to change, right?
Absolutely, and I think when the ownership changes, there's going to be some of the players that have been involved and haven't been involved that are either going to want to get involved or are not going to want any part of it. So it's kind of like the squeeze that's going on at Netflix right now. The only reason Netflix started creating their own content is because the studios and networks started either saying, you're not getting our content, or we're going to charge you way more than what you've been paying for it. So
exactly.
Yeah. The funny thing is that, if you take a look at DVDs, you can buy the same DVD at Walmart as you can at Target, as you can at Kmart, as you can at the local drugstore, right?
Yeah.
They don't usually have exclusivity on shows. And I think, 10 years from now, we're going to look back at this time and think it's really quaint that people kept their video content away from, when they could be selling it everywhere, like they do with a DVD.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's really short-sighted for any kind of a content platform to try and restrict the distribution of their shows. It seems kind of silly.
So, Tim, tell us about this award your daughter won.
I'm not somebody who shares too much of my personal life online, but she got into a new school with a short film.
Oh, that's outstanding. Congratulations to her.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
great. That's great.
So, anyway, I know you need to run. And Rob, any last parting before we let Tim take off?
No, that's good. He needs to go and be with his family. So that's what counts.
All right, thanks, guys.
Hey,
Thanks
Tim,
for having me on.
Take care, and have a great day. Thanks for coming on.
Great.
Okay, Tim.
Bye.
Thanks, Tim.
We need to have Tim on more often.
Oh, he's a great guy. I was really, really looking forward to having him on.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of other topics that we can talk about with him too, but I think it was good that the ones that we covered in the short period of time that we had him.
Yeah, he's got this full breadth of information. Of course, the stuff he's doing with his company as well at mDialog.
Yeah, he didn't even go into that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a full deep stuff. What do you think, Rob, then of the announcement then by YouTube on them letting folks that have channels with 1,000 subscribers now use their live platform? Is there going to be a race now by people to get their subscriber counts up, and then people leaving Ustream and a variety of other streaming services?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to happen. I think that's reasonable to say that the guys at Ustream and Justin TV are probably a little concerned about this. Though I have to say, I mean, I'm constantly amazed at what Google is willing to do with YouTube to totally dominate the video space. Now, the whole live thing I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit of a gimmick. because not that many people watch live. I mean, let's be honest. It's just, I mean, I find that I'm actually watching more stuff live online, so I can see that there's a little blip there of people wanting to do this. I think it creates a more kind of dynamic content, um, and I think it does get some audiences engaged. So there are some real advantages to doing this, and I think that that's what they're tapping into, is the whole Google Plus thing. I think that's what this effort is really about. It's the merging of that Hangouts concept, I think, is what they're ultimately going towards, to try and make their Google Plus environment much more kind of audience friendly, right? It gets people engaged at a deeper level.
Well, from my perspective, have been trying to figure out for years on how to really do a good network live channel. And now, because there was all these situations where there was, you had to have, everyone had to have the same account, had the same password. So now you can basically make a channel. You can assign a bunch of producers to that channel. Then you essentially can have a schedule and something a little easier to do, and I don't have to worry about setting up any infrastructure. All we have to do is put the embed on a website, and when it's this guy's time to go live, he goes live, and he can use the channel, and he gets two things. Boom, it goes up on YouTube. Two, he's got a recording locally, and he can distribute that on his own personal YouTube channel. But I think for us, we're excited because we're going to be able to do the network stuff. Now, we're a little bit behind the 8 ball because we haven't put a lot of investment over there. But now we got a goal, so I don't think it will take too long for us as a network to make some things happen. And Tech Podcast has a channel, but we have, really not even, messed with it very much over the past couple of years. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's because the tech podcasts have been all about podcasting, not about YouTube. So,
Right.
and it's longer form content, and I mean, I think it's what's happened with the Tech Podcast Network in YouTube was appropriate. I think, is YouTube going to be a place for longer form talk content? I don't know that there's any significant evidence that it's going to be, but it does create a platform for the network and yourself to do live shows on, that's probably more cost effective than the platforms that you're currently using.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some monetization opportunities that are plugged into that as well, right? So.
And we'll see how they implement the actual in-show advertising too. We'll see how well that's done, from an overlay standpoint. So I think it's a big win. I'm really excited about it. I'm looking forward to, doing some stuff on YouTube. But we may maybe a few weeks away. We'll see. We'll see how it does. Hey,
So if you did that, would you keep doing the live stream stuff,
Yeah.
or in the Ustream?
yeah,
Okay.
as long as I've got the bandwidth, I will. That's sometimes the limiting factor, but this may motivate me to go and set up a Wowza server now and push to one and let it push, let it re-push to many.
Yeah.
And, not one's better than the other. It's just, sometimes you want to be everywhere. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the key. I mean, if you can push out one stream and it goes to all these platforms, I think that's the key. I know you've been kind of living in this world where you've having to push multiple streams, right? And that's pretty taxing to your equipment. I mean, you have to have redundant servers or redundant PCs in your facility there that can handle that,
and the bandwidth to be able to push it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can just push one and then have it split off at the server end, that's a lot better.
I saw a couple things in chat this week that I was going to talk about. That was in a variety in Google Plus and Facebook and some other places, and So I saw this guy's studio, and I wanted to share this picture. This guy's got, and I don't know if I can blow this up or not, but this is very. It's just very nice. This guy's done a real nice job with his little studio, and he's got this great layout, all these nice machines, lots of nice colors, and then I just kind of laugh at his chair.
Oh yeah,
Just a basic chair.
it's
So
a folding chair, isn't it?
yeah. But this is Mike Howard's podcasting setup, and one thing is for sure is everyone seems to have a lot of screens. I'm looking here; he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 that he uses for a show, and here I've got my show 1, 2, 3, and I've got 5. So it's kind of funny how that all runs together. But he did a nice job on that. Another thing,
Yeah, I was
go
actually
ahead.
I've been doing some planning myself around trying to build a little studio for myself, and I wanted to think outside of the box a little bit. I didn't want to create it like everyone else created one. I wanted to create one that was different, right?
Right.
Not, I mean, one that would be more of a relaxing kind of a set kind of thing,
Yep.
not and I think what I'm doing with this mic is a little bit of an example of how I'm trying to move differently in this, or think differently anyway, is to get the whole boom mic thing,
Right. Out of your
out
face.
of the picture, get less kind of like sitting right in front of a computer monitor, to like doing a show more like in a
Living room.
comfortable chair
Yeah.
with a backdrop. I mean, and not so much a green screen, but a real kind of a place like that. And then you just have like small monitors that are visible, but not so much right in the middle of the picture, or immediately right in front of you. I don't know. I've just been trying to think about how I could do a show that maybe was more comfortable, was still had video but had good audio too,
Right.
but was not in a typical kind of like a home studio type kind of setup. I don't know.
And I
It's
think
just
that's smart,
things.
though. And for me, I when we were at NAB, and when we were at NAB, and the live stream folks had this one desk
Yeah.
/ couch. I hated the couch, hated it, and I think it's each person is just a little bit different in their comfort style,
Yeah.
and also too, if you're sitting on a couch, it's not, you're gonna have to either have an iPad or a laptop or nothing as a prop, and that can be a little more difficult. If you can have a monitor, big enough monitor out of sight,
Yeah,
it
I
would,
think that's the key right there.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
you still have to be able to see what's going on in front of you, or see what the video looks like, or
Yep.
to see, to get access to things to maybe control the production. But I think part of this up in the game, I guess, as far as how I'm starting to think about it, is we need to make our shows look more like TV, right, or
Yep.
more like what you would see on broadcast, but kind of combine the elements of that with the elements of what makes this medium so great, right? And it's the in-depth conversation, it's the real kind of experience. It's not this entirely scripted thing.
right.
You know,
I just
so
wish they had a way where they had monitors that you could shoot a camera through, because oftentimes I'm
mhm.
looking at my monitor, my camera is, there's a difference here, and there's a disconnect, and it's real hard, especially in my type of content, to be able to always be focused on the camera, because sometimes I'm reading text,
Yeah,
and there's got to be, if someone would ever invent a monitor that a camera could actually shoot through. I'm sure it would cost a lot of money, but man, it would be worth its weight in gold, because, for us that have to have our one man shows like me, if there's, and believe me, I've tried everything on the sun to get the angle as
yeah.
low as possible, and it's a challenge. It really, really is.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I find that I put the Skype video window up in the very upper part of my screen,
right.
so like like right
It
below the
it
camera,
forces
right?
you to look up, and it doesn't look
Yeah,
like you're looking away from the camera. Yeah, that's smart. Um, one thing that we saw is that with Yahoo's considering to update the Flickr site, that's going to help those who are doing photography stuff. But also, there was talk about Yahoo making a big $1 billion purchase. And boy, I tell you, I think there's I think there's going to be a war to buy Instagram here. I think it's going to be an interesting time to see if they actually are able to pull that off.
Oh, you mean by Tumblr, I think,
Oh,
right?
was it Tumblr? Oh,
Tumblr, yeah,
oh,
yeah.
is that
That's
the same
okay.
type of deal? Is that the?
No, Tumblr is like a blogging platform almost.
Are they
It's
that?
kind of like a,
Are they that big? It says
you know,
100,
I
108
hate to
point.
say, but the billion, the B number is the going price now, I guess, for significant online brands. But yeah,
Wow.
I'd say that Tumblr is probably up there. I mean,
It says 108.1 million blogs.
yeah.
Wow.
And it's just kind of like a next generation WordPress kind of thing is
Yeah.
what it is. It's it's probably closer in its layout and design to Facebook and now Google Plus or Pinterest. It has that kind of like that kind of like sectional presentation that it has, kind of in a timeline kind of thing. So
So
that's
speaking, go ahead.
no, that's fine. Go ahead.
So speaking of Google Plus, what do you think of their changes?
Well, I don't really spend a lot of time in Google Plus. I'll be really honest with you.
Really?
I and I constantly hear that too. I don't believe that there's a lot of people that do spend a lot of time in Google Plus, but I do know that the ones that are there have built good followings, and have a lot of interactivity. Actually, I find that I spend a lot more of my time in Twitter these days, but that's really, I think, has a lot more to do with my work and what I'm doing. I'm just not spending a lot of time in any of the social networks that much. I mean, I'm talking about Facebook and Google Plus. I probably should, but I just haven't been spending a lot of time there. I guess I've just been busy doing other things, and Twitter seems to fit right in with this kind of like being able to broadcast,
Yeah.
as well as have one-to-one conversations and communications. So it seems to straddle that line. It's become more of a professional thing for me. And I don't know, the whole Facebook thing, it's just not connecting with me as much as it used to. I guess my impression of it is it's not that great of a multimedia platform. It's just for video and for audio, it doesn't engage me.
Facebook I use for family and friends, and Google
Exactly.
Plus I use for largely for hanging out with the tech crowd and I belong to a lot of communities on Google Plus, and that's where I spend most of my time is in the communities. And if you're interested in something, there's a community for you, and there's vibrant conversations. I've got my local Hawaii community that where I keep up on what's going on with the scene here, and then I've got some national stuff that's basically got people from all over the country involved. I look at my Google Plus feed on a periodic basis, but it's really the communities function that's really, and it goes back to really the bulletin board days, because that's what we used to have before was topical communities, and it's
Yeah.
just much more richer conversation. And I don't get that on Facebook. Facebook, I'll go in maybe once a day and do a quick scan and like and comment on a few things,
Yeah.
and then I blast out. So
One area that I'm seeing pop up more into my world and what I'm doing, and I think it has a lot to do with it. I think I have a really kind of significant community there already, is LinkedIn. I've been really surprised. They've been pushing really aggressively here to get more into content and conversations and community. And I'm constantly getting pinged with professional requests, to kind of link up on LinkedIn. I probably have well over 1,000 contacts, and on LinkedIn, actually, it's a lot bigger than even my 800 that I have on Facebook. And it seems to be a pretty advanced platform, though I haven't jumped into the whole kind of becoming a member, like a paid member, which I
Right.
know a lot of people are trying to move towards. But I I look at LinkedIn and I think, what are these guys becoming? I mean, I think it's their name doesn't necessarily imply that it's business professional 100%, right?
Well,
I kind of,
I think, on LinkedIn, and I got my profile up, I do pay for an account.
oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, and pay for a business account. The insights I'm getting on who's looking, you can tell who's looked at your profile.
Yeah.
You can see how many times you've shown up in search results. You can, and oftentimes now, if I'm trying to connect with someone, and someone in my LinkedIn links are just one person away. In other words, they're a direct friend or a direct acquaintance. That's where I get a majority of my introductions now. That's how I use LinkedIn. I don't necessarily go there for the conversations because I see a lot of self promotion in LinkedIn, which I
Yeah.
guess maybe that's good
Yeah.
because people are trying to, find their maybe their next job or whatever. But it really, for me, has been pretty valuable from an introduction standpoint.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people kind of have LinkedIn accounts and kind of like what you're saying, but I think that they kind of put it in this box, right, of that is good for this, right?
Yep.
But I wonder if you look out further and they keep kind of pushing the envelope on what they're doing, that LinkedIn could become at some point even probably not bigger than Facebook, but a more significant. I could see myself spending more time there, um, looking into the future, especially if they get more aggressive around content, which I think is what they're intending on doing. If they get better in video and better in audio and all that stuff, I could see them being very, very competitive to Facebook and even being a much more profitable business than Facebook. I mean, at this point, just my impression of them, I would be more inclined to buy stock in LinkedIn than buy stock in Facebook. I don't
Yeah.
know what you think.
Yeah. And from an employer standpoint, um, this is the place to find people for jobs.
Yeah.
We use their job service. And if you don't have your profile on LinkedIn and you're not, you don't keep it current, shame on you because this is the place. I'll be honest with you. We paid for job listings on all the other services, and when we have posted a job here, this is where we found our candidates. Our best candidates have come from LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's the find jobs section where anyone can go look. And, if you're looking here, like for example, Staples, 54 jobs. Booz Allen, 3 jobs. Cox has got posted. United's got 11 jobs posted. So if you're looking for a job, you can go right in here. If you got a company that you want to work for, you want to go to work for Time Warner, boom, you go look and see what Time Warner has listed for openings, and it's really pretty powerful. And I've just, okay, so for example, financial analyst, director of technical operations out of Texas, senior network engineer, managing director of marketing and forecasting. So, these are all, available jobs at Time Warner. But, if you're, this is the place to find a job. I really think it's a pretty valuable, and it shows people in your network that may be connected with those companies too. Because, here's the bottom line. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to get a job. If you have a friend at Booz Allen and you fit the job description, you message your guy on LinkedIn at Booz Allen. You say, hey, I'm looking for a job. I see you guys got an opening. Can you make sure that my digital resume that I just sent is not going to end up in the bottom of some trash can? They go into HR and they say, hey, pull Todd's resume. I know this guy. He's a good guy. We need to talk to him. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to pull your resume and you're going to get called.
Yeah.
So a lot of people forget that. So I think from LinkedIn, if you're not on there, it's you may be happy in your current job, but things can turn south in a New York minute.
Yeah, that's true. That is certainly true.
Yeah, boss.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is really been, in a lot of ways, it's been kind of a sleeper, but
Yeah.
it like it creeps into your life and you don't even realize it sometimes. Just, I've been involved with it since the very early days of it, so I've got quite a number. I'm well over that 500 plus
Right.
designation.
Yeah,
I think
me
it's
too.
really interesting how they've taken a different approach with that. And it's like all of the social networks that I've noticed have taken this philosophy of really de-emphasizing the number of friends that you
Right.
have, except for Twitter. Twitter puts it up there, puts it
Yeah.
up front. But all the rest of them, they kind of de-emphasize that stuff. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact, and I see this with Twitter as well, is that these companies want you to refine your relationships, not
Yep.
just grow a big number, right?
I get requests probably 9 to 10 a week, and oftentimes I have no idea who the person is. And I'll look at their profile and make sure, okay, is this person, how is he connecting with me? Is he connected because he's watching my show? Is he a podcaster? What's where's the tie-in? And oftentimes I'll send them a message. You're supposed to be able to put in there how you're connected. You're supposed to be able to see that.
Yeah.
But oftentimes I'll be like, did we work together? Have we done something? And they'll email me back. Oh, yeah, yeah. And I'm not super great with names. And they'll say, oh, yeah, this and this. And say, okay, I'll add you. But I decline at least 50% of my connections that request to be linked in. So,
Yeah, I do too. I think I've got probably a couple hundred requests for connections on LinkedIn, and I've never confirmed them because I kind of look at them from the perspective of do I have an affinity to them?
right.
Is there kind of a commonality in my profession, or do I recognize the company that they work for? Those are kind of the criteria. And I know these aren't really kind of new media topics per se, but
Yeah. It's funny because I was the other day. Someone added me, and I was on Google Plus, and it's not unusual because a lot of people add me on Google Plus, but it was one of those profiles you're kind of like, uh-oh, is that just some buddy that's a scammer? And so you're pretty safe to click on someone's profile in Google Plus, and it was some adult industry performer, and I was just like, why? Okay, so she's just trying to get guys to follow her, so she's just following anyone, hoping that they would willy-nilly follow them back. And I'm thinking to myself, it's probably not smart to have a adult industry person in your circles that you're following back. That speaks loudly, probably in a negative way.
I don't know, Ty. At some point, you might want to take a job for a porn industry company,
whatever.
right?
Yeah, ha ha ha. Puke, make me want to throw up myself, my own mouth. Okay, so I think we've really diverged here. So, my God. Hey, folks that are watching, make sure we want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We've got to get the numbers up so that I can start streaming on YouTube. So if you go over to youtube.com/geek news and subscribe. Matter of fact, on Monday, all the people that have subscribed since the last show on Thursday, we're going to be having a raffle, and we're going to give away $100. So my plan is, if I can't entice them with a little cash, bribe them on in, so a little incentive plan to subscribe. And really, if you don't want to subscribe, don't. But if you do, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I actually subscribed to your channel a long time ago, so you don't have to bribe me with cash.
Yeah, there you go. So you missed out, Rob. You should have waited. And we're gonna give one person a chance to win $100. So kind of funny.
Yeah, I think you're getting pretty close to that 1,000 number from what I saw last night.
Yeah, it's not that close. There's a little ways to go yet. So
who's there? Okay.
Yeah, and you want something to happen right away, but you know what's going to happen now? People are going to go out and buy YouTube followers. there's going to be some company that will have a business that'll be selling YouTube subscribers. One thing I did, that's kind of funny because last night, and this is really digressing, but I've been playing Ingress, and they had a local meetup, and so we met up with the folks, and the guys were sitting around the table, and we're talking, and one of the guys says, "Well, one thing I haven't seen, basically to play this game, you have to. It's not all just there's a lot of strategy involved, but long story short, you have to be able to collect enough items to do things that you want to do within the game." One of the guys says, "Man, I spent a lot of time collecting and a lot of time doing." And one of the guys says, "I bet you I could find someone in China that is doing nothing but collecting and is going to be willing to sell his inventory." And I just kind of laughed. I'm like, "Yep, there'll only be a few weeks before something like that comes out." That happens in every multi MMO game. There becomes this underground for stuff, and I'm like, if you're gonna, play the game, play the game. Don't. I don't wouldn't call that cheating, but that would be giving yourself an unfair advantage. So.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap this up. You guys can email us here, Todd or Rob at newmediashow.com. And we did have a couple of. I was actually going to look. We had a couple of emails come in. Nothing that was super critical. Did you have anything came into you, Rob?
I didn't see anything there. I get most of my communication from Twitter, so there's always stuff bubbling up on Twitter. I've been really noticing a real uptick in news articles and coverage of podcasting here. Boy, over the last couple of weeks, it's just been an explosion of.
You have to send those to me when you see those, so we can talk about them here on the show.
Well, I try and post them all to my Twitter stream, but there's just this constant flow, and a lot of it's coming out of LA around. I think this recent thing that happened with Mark Maron, with his TV show, has really sparked just a proliferation. I think that there was an article, I think, in the Hollywood Reporter that was talking about podcasting as the new path of choice for Hollywood to carve out direct relationships with their audience. And it's like, is this going to really spark an explosion coming out of Hollywood from all of these aspiring TV stars, or ones that are their stars fading a little bit, and they're going to jump in and start making podcasts now, and it's just going to create this real explosion of content. I think it could be coming here. I think it's already started. There's no question about that. But I just get a sense. I haven't seen this level of attention in the podcasting space since back in 05 or 06. It's definitely all these TV shows that are coming out, and I heard that the Joe Rogan Experience is going to have its own TV show here in the fall as well. I think was it Rob? I think mentioned that on last week's show. So you just see all of these. The Hollywood studios are really looking at podcasts. It's their path to capture this growth area, and like Tim was talking about, I think that's going to be the big story to follow is how Hollywood and the entertainment industry really embraces this going forward.
What's kind of interesting is I was given, it's still on the table, and there's basically we're working through the details. I was contacted by a major radio network that has a digital app, and they have all their radio stations on their digital app, but they're looking for talk shows to kind of add to their digital lineup. So they asked me if I'd be willing to put my show up on their digital feed, and I said yes, with one exception. I'm not following a radio time format. I'm not going to cut the show up and make it fit the traditional radio model. And I said, I'll be happy to put markers in where you guys can drop ads, but I'm not going to change the format of the show. And so we had quite the discussion about that alone. And I'm like, listen, this is not radio. I said, if you want the content, it is as it is. It's a flow of conversation that is, got my advertising in it. You can drop advertising in, but I'm going to tell you where to put it. And it's not going to be at 13 minutes and 27 seconds. So they're actually going back and talking with their developers to see what has to be done to basically take on more content like mine. And so it's kind of an interesting, and this is the theme I keep seeing everywhere. Everyone's searching for content. As much content is out there, there's a shortage. And that's hard to believe, but there's a dearth of basically of good content, I think.
Yeah, I think there's always a desire for good content. I think what's going on right now is that there's so much content that isn't that good that's kind of creating a lot of noise, and it's hard for people to find good content. And I guess that's how a lot of these platforms are trying to just differentiate themselves. I did write a blog post off of my robgreenlee.com site called, and the title of it is "Podcasting the Same as Radio," because I've seen. And I believe that we're going to see more of this here over the next couple of years as the radio industry realizes that they need to get on board with this whole digital distribution thing more and link up with podcasting more. Is that they have this perception that podcasting is just the same thing as radio, and it's fundamentally is not. And it gets back to what you were just talking about, is how it is different, length and format and just the principles behind it are just not the same. And you do get put in this situation, and I know this firsthand because I had a radio show that started out as a radio show, and I became a podcast, and how different radio is from what we're doing right here or what most podcasters do. I mean, I did a radio show for the XM satellite radio network, and I had to program in 6 breaks in my show every hour, just for XM for station IDs and in commercials, right? Well, we don't have that in podcasting. No. It's just not the same thing. But there's these radio professionals that think that that's okay to do in podcasting.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to work, and it's going to turn people off. And so I think it's really important, I think, going forward that people that are experts in podcasting need to get with people in radio and communicate to them that there is a difference between these two things. You can't just take a radio show in its current format and just put it out as a podcast and have it be entirely successful. It's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
But a lot of those guys, it's like it's the hammer and the nail thing. They just think, it's audio, it's the same thing, and that's what I know, and that's what I'm going to force it to be, and it's just not going to work. So anyway, that's what that post was all about, is how podcasts are different than radio, but similar.
And
go ahead.
I was going to tell the folks, make sure they go over to robgreenlee.com.
Yeah, and I'll keep posting in there thoughts and what's happening in the space, and I've been doing that. I haven't been doing that a lot, but I've definitely been trying to fire it back up again. But if you go back and listen to my old archives from my old radio show, you can really see what I'm talking about. It's almost shocking to go in there and listen to some of those old shows like I did back in 2002 and 4 and 6, and I had those breaks. Like you're talking about, you have exit music and you say, we'll be right back. And then, the commercials play and then you say, welcome back. And it's like, that just doesn't work in podcasting.
And I had to laugh too, because it wasn't recently, maybe 6 months ago, I had a local radio station actually call me and said, we're looking for content for Saturday. We know you're here in Hawaii. We know you do tech content. We'd like to have a tech segment. I'm like, great, be happy to do a program. Yeah, well, we'd like you to pay. I'm like, huh? You're calling me for content, and you what? You want me to pay?
Pay for airtime,
I'm
right?
like, no, I'm not paying for airtime. You're calling me. I'm not calling you. You're looking for content. No, I'm not paying to be on your radio station on a Saturday. And then I had to disparage the guy. I said, no one's listening anyway. It's and you're probably going to state some Nielsen statistics. And I laughed at him. I said, the Nielsen thing. I said, we get Nielsen statistic little brochures that you fill out, and my kids fill them out. And we have a lot of fun with those things. And he's
They
like,
don't mean anything, right?
yeah, they mean nothing. And I'm like, it's you think you're getting accurate. I said, some people may take the time and fill that out perfectly, but they're putting the stuff that they're watching on YouTube on the Nielsen thing. They weren't even putting radio stuff on, and that pretty much ended the conversation. So,
Yeah. Well, that's how I started my show. I started paying a broadcast radio station back in 1999. I think I was paying $50 an hour or something like that. It was pretty.
That's pretty cheap. They were
Yeah.
they were talking like $1,000 an hour for me. I was
Oh
like,
no, I had an opportunity to have a show on a major station here in Seattle. It was probably back in 2002. To take my show that I was doing on a smaller station and take it to a bigger station. They wanted to charge me $1,600 an hour.
wow.
And they would sell half of the advertising slots in the program. In addition to that, right? So
Right.
I was paying $1,600, and I could run any kind of advertisers that I wanted to run up to a certain point, right? I could
Yeah.
have so many per hour, but the other half of the openings, so it was like 42 minutes of content. So you had,
18
Yeah,
minutes of ads.
yeah, exactly. And so it was like split 50-50, right? They could sell half of that and make more money than the $1,600 an hour on top of that.
Wow.
So I turned it down, but I had a few clients that had shows that they did it, and they got in huge debt trying to do this kind of lifestyle programming on Saturday and Sunday mornings, which is a lot of the big market radio stations. That's what they do. They'll actually sell the airtime to almost like sponsor content providers, right?
Right,
So
right,
it'll be like Jake's Auto Supply Store. A couple of the owners from that chain of auto repair shops will come in and do a weekly radio show.
Wow,
and they
that's
have to
really
pay.
compelling.
Yeah, but it's a call-in talk show situation.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
call
yeah.
in and asking about their car problems and things like that. So
Yeah.
it works, but yeah, it's not always very compelling.
Because they can drive over to the other auto parts store instead of going to theirs and buying the product.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're already here at the hour 20-minute mark. So let's wrap
Okay.
this thing up. Again,
All right.
everyone, thanks for coming out and hanging out with us. Who's on tap for next week?
Let's see. Let me pull up my sheet. We have a person from the FCC.
Oh, that's right. And we're doing
Mr.
that. Are we doing that on Saturday or Sunday?
I believe Saturday is what you told me it was okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So anyway, folks, we'll have a person on from the FCC. Should be a good conversation. Going to talk
Yeah.
about. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the situation in Washington, D.C. around closed captioning on web videos, and what's happening in that space, and could it expand to other areas. I think right now it's mainly positioned to go after like the streaming networks and things like that, the big media networks. But will it come down to regular web videos? I think is the big question I wanted to have him come on and talk about.
So should be a good conversation, and I think we're going to try to get another filler guest for the rest of the time as well. So we'll talk about that.
Yep.
We'll announce that when we get close to it. All
Yep.
right, Rob, again, those of you that are listening, you can catch us both via email if you want, Todd or Rob at New Media Show. Of course, you can reach Rob on Twitter at Rob,
Rob Greenlee. Yeah.
and you can reach me at Geek News. And we want to thank you for subscribing and being here, and send your comments to us, what you think about the show. We definitely appreciate feedback. And again, thanks to Tim coming on board and hanging out with us for a while this morning. But until next time, everyone, take care. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.